Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack. The party's over and you're just kind of getting back on a bumpy shuttle to the hotel. It is tough.
What fresh hell?
Laughing in the face of motherhood.
They can pretty much do it all, except take care of a 2-year-old when you've left the room for more than 90 seconds before they forget.
With Margaret Abels
and Amy Wilson.
What's fun for kids is a loud birthday party. And thinking, well, let me take the other side of that.
A podcast that solves today's parenting dilemmas.
So you don't have to.
I do live by this rule without realizing that it was a rule.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Margaret.
And this is Amy. And this week, we're going to talk about our favorite takeaways from another year of the What Fresh Hell podcast.
Another year down, Amy. How do we do it?
2023. Pretty exciting.
Another year down. I can't believe it. I don't know. Time flies.
First, we want to give ourselves a back pat because in 2023, our podcast network, Adalyst Media, started 2023. I believe it started 2023 with 4 podcasts. Closes out the year with 15.
So exciting. Find them all at adalystmedia.com. ADALYST. Gonna spell it, as we say on our ads. Adalyst Media. Go check out all of our podcast offerings. And it's been an exciting year for our business and growing, and changing hearts and minds all over the world, Amy.
Yeah. The other thing we did this year is we started What Fresh Hell Plus. So special thanks to our What Fresh Hell Plus listeners. If you subscribe to What Fresh Hell Plus, you get every episode we've ever done, which is over 700 at this point, ad-free. And then you also get monthly bonus episodes where we talk about distinctly non-parenting and very silly things.
Yes, indeed. I think in my many shout outs, I shout out one of those episodes. So
oh, really?
You have to be in the know to know what I'm talking about when I get to that shout out.
Well, you can find the link in the show notes for this episode, in our Instagram bio. You can find it on our website, or you just go to whatfreshhell.supportingcast.fm. You subscribe in 2 taps. You keep listening where you're already listening. You don't have to download a new app or anything. And you support the show even more than you're already supporting the show by listening. We also love, by the way, our listeners who listen to the show and listen to ads and support our show that way. It's amazing.
It's odd. We love you all. We don't know how this can happen.
We love you both the same. It's like 2 children. I love you.
We're like our own children. We love you both the same. Sometimes more and less on different days, as it turns out, just like our children.
Right.
So let's start our year in review, Amy, with funniest episode of the year. Mine was very easy. It was We Forgot What Little Kids Were Like.
Okay.
Over the summer, I ended up babysitting for my 6-year-old and 2-year-old nephew and niece. And halfway through the experience, I was on a call or a FaceTime with Amy as kids were, murdering each other in the background and running around with no diapers. And I'd completely lost control because my older kids were supposed to be in charge and it was going terribly. And I said, oh no, we need to record an episode about this because half of the advice that I am giving people is through the rose-colored glasses of
I forgot.
It is interesting. My youngest is 11 now. All of my kids, my kids could basically just do it now. They could stay home alone. They would be a mess. The house would be a disaster, but they're basically self-sufficient. And I realized that I was if you do anything else during the day, you're a superhero. Like, just get through the days. That's your only job.
One of the things I like best about being a content creator is that you can almost always take like a hard season that you're in and you're like, oh, this is something. I can make something out of this. Later.
Yeah, I can make something out of this.
Not now. I won't be making a podcast now. I have, 3-month-old twins, but someday I can really tell some stories about this. And so,
yeah. And here I was again. I also think it's interesting as a content creator and as a human that how much, and I'm sure there's studies, and maybe we could do a whole episode about this, but like how much your default experience makes you believe that it is the experience of everybody. And we have a lot of episodes this year where we kind of talked about that. And I think it's something that you and I personally work hard at, is trying to say, what don't we know? What are our blind spots? What are we missing about this? What am I assuming when I say these things? And it was just such a splash of cold water, the idea of like, oh yeah, having kids. The reverse of this is, I've talked about before, how I had an aunt whose husband passed away when she had 5 very, very young kids. And I was like, oh yeah, that happened. Sure. Like that was part of, I knew that happened. And then I had one kid and I thought, like, why don't we have a statue of that person in our kitchen? Like, why don't we talk about nothing else? Because suddenly the reality of that fell on me in such a strong way. And I think that there is a difference between understanding things intellectually and understanding them viscerally. And that experience of going back and being with little kids 24 hours a day. And it was, 4 days, 5 days. It wasn't long. And I had an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old helping me. Although that was another case of, okay, they weren't as helpful as I thought.
You were just saying before, they can pretty much take care of anything. They can pretty much do it all, except take care of a 2-year-old when you've left the room for more than like 90 seconds before they forget.
Yeah, except for help me take care of a 2-year-old. But I also mentioned on the episode, which was my favorite line of the year, and it's become part of our dialogue in the house, that the 2-year-old we didn't know each other very well. She lives far away. We see each other twice a year. And she was also just 2. So like last time I saw her, she was maybe, 16 months. So she was not, she was suddenly a person. And she didn't really know who I was, so she would call me Aunt Meg, but she hadn't been speaking long enough to develop that name. And so she just called me the mommy the whole time, and that she kept saying to me, I want the mommy to do it. Like when my kids would try to feed her, she's like, no, I want the mommy to do it. And so she just had enough.
I don't trust any of these people.
No, she just had enough sense in her little 2-year-old brain to be like, this 11-year-old does not know what they're doing and should not be feeding me. I want the mommy to do it.
Smart girl.
And so now whenever it comes up, my husband I'll be trying to get him to do something. And he's like, I think they want the mommy to do it. It's a useful phrase.
By the way, all the episodes we're talking about today, we're going to put a Spotify playlist for all of these episodes in the show notes for this episode. We'll put them up on Facebook too. So if you're listening to this like, oh, that's funny, I want to go back and listen to that one, don't worry. We have a playlist of all these episodes waiting for you in the show notes. My funniest episode for this year was Personal Rules. This was one of our crowdsourced episodes, which tend to be among our funniest. We go to our listeners on our Facebook page and group and ask you guys. So this was, what are your incredibly rigid and random personal rules? And they were hilarious. I'm going to remind you of Kelly, who said she doesn't ride shuttles. Like at the airport, yes, she'll allow airport rental car shuttles. Otherwise, no shuttles. If an event requires people to park somewhere and ride a shuttle to an event venue, there's a 99% chance I will not enjoy it. So she's written shuttle-based events out of her life.
She's not wrong.
She's not wrong.
The end of the night wedding shuttle when you're ready to leave the venue, God bless people. They're trying to have it at a nice place. But then you're slightly buzzed, you're exhausted, your feet hurt, then you're waiting for a shuttle, then you're suddenly on a bus with like cousin Albert and like the grandma, and you're kind of...
The party's over. It's not fun anymore.
The party's over and you're just kind of getting back on a bumpy shuttle to the hotel. It is tough. I mean, we were recently at a wedding and we were like, can we walk? And it was 5.5 miles. We were like, no, we really can't walk. And so we took the shuttle with weird cousin Al and the grandma and stuff. They didn't want to be with us either, for the record.
Sally also had a rule that I weirdly discovered I also live by, come to think of it. Sally says if you're driving and you change lane to a faster lane and then it ends up all of a sudden being the slower lane, you can't change back. You've made your driving bed. Now you have to drive in it. You can't keep changing. And I was like, yeah, I do live by this rule without realizing that it was a rule.
Yeah, I love the episodes where we somehow tap into and we get some help from suggestions. Sometimes we find funny stuff on Reddit. There's different ways we find these topics, but I like when I always say, as a content creator, that your strike zone is, I'm going to tell you something that everybody does that no one thinks that everyone does. Everybody thinks it's just them. And like, this really hit that chord of everybody has bizarre personal rules that they can neither explain nor get rid of in any way. Like, it is not possible to change these things.
Nor should you.
Nor should you. I don't know if you should. I would say change back. It's fine. Get in the other lane. But like, no, it's a rule.
It's the best thing about like podcasting and parenting content. You're not alone. You thought you were the only one who was going through things that are both really hard. And also now I've made the wrong decision on, the Garden State Parkway and I'm going to have to live with it. I'm going to have to live with my bad decision. We're all the same.
I once was on a road trip with my aunt and the highway was just flying along, and we were in a stopped part of traffic. And I gently suggested that maybe we could just get on the regular highway and go
with those other people.
And she kept saying, no, the truckers always know the best way. This was years ago, at the time before Google Maps. And it took us, I'm going to say, a half an hour to realize we were in the line for the truck wait station.
Oh my gosh.
Like they were weighing the trucks. But she had a rule that the truckers
were free to go.
Always stay with truckers because the truckers always know the secrets of the road. And we were free to go indeed, but we were waiting in the truck waiting line because she had a rule.
What was your favorite Fresh Take interview that we did this year?
We always have so many good fresh takes. I love hearing people's takes that are fresh, I guess is what I love to hear. I loved talking to Virginia Soul-Smith, who had written the book Fat Talk Parenting in the Age of Diet Culture.
Yeah, that was like a challenging episode, right? It really explodes some preconceived notions I had without realizing I had them.
It's really interesting. It's something that stayed with me. I think that the idea, we've talked a lot and we have an episode called Let's Not Care What We Weigh. Like I have been on my own journey around body image and weight that I think predated what is now kind of a discourse between maintenance phase and many great books on this topic, that like, what if we just let go of this nonsense? I was a certain age. I was in my 40s probably, at which point I was like, I've been thinking about what I eat in terms of dieting for 30 years with exactly the same results, sometimes losing weight, sometimes gaining weight, but basically it's so uninteresting to me and I want to let it go. And I kind of thought like, okay, my work is done because I've decided to stop thinking about weight, to stop, and I set up a bunch of personal rules. Like I don't greet people. I don't talk about other people's weight. And when other people talk about my weight, I just say, I don't know. I don't weigh myself. Like my weight fluctuates. And so people tend to comment a lot on my weight because it fluctuates. And I understand that people think they're being kind when they say, oh, you look like you lost weight. And I just say, oh, I don't know. I don't keep track of that. I just try to not have it be a part of the dialogue.
But it is part of the dialogue, right? Like what you were saying about maintenance phase and like, I'm sorry, the typical doctor's office isn't tuned into maintenance phase and they're not supposed to say, well, it looks like you lost weight or have you step on the scale even though you came for a headache. We have to do this work. People who are trying to do things differently, particularly as parents, we have to sort of approach this in many, many different ways that we don't talk about other people's bodies. I think I've gotten that memo partially from doing this podcast, but a lot of other people have not.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what my end point to that was, having thought, like, I've done this work, and check that talking to Virginia on that episode was like, oh, this isn't just one and done. Like, this isn't something that you just decide to stop thinking about it and you're finished with it. And certainly that's true for me personally in my own like everyday relationship with food, that it turns out I can't just say like, I'm going to stop doing this and stop doing it. And it's also really true in the way that I think and react in an entire world that is talking a lot about weight and bodies, and that I can opt out of small parts of it, but that I thought that conversation was really revelatory in terms of sort of readdressing this thing that I thought I had put a check mark by.
Right. I thought I at least understood, like we talked about correlation and causation in that episode. And, oh, right, we understand that people who, for example, are what traditional medicine would consider overweight are also more likely to have asthma, but that doesn't mean being overweight causes asthma. There's a set of outside stressors and causes that might cause both things, but one doesn't cause the other. And it just was sort of like, I never thought of it that way. That episode was for me full of, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we're going to take a break and we'll be back with even more of our favorite fresh takes of the year.
Hellions, it's time for some spring cleaning, and I don't just mean the coat closets. Doing your financial spring cleaning can actually be super easy when you let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more logins scattered everywhere, just accounts, investments, property, and more, all in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code FRESH. Monarch allows you to look not only at what you've already spent, but also to plan for the future. With Monarch, you can set savings goals, plan for big purchases, and notice spending trends before they become a problem. I can generate cash flow reports that show me what we spent this quarter, this month, what we're probably going to spend next month, and feel prepared, organized, and knowing how to plan for the future. No more surprises and a lot more clarity. Try Monarch. Use code FRESH at monarch.com to get your first year half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code FRESH.
Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand. And it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women, tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING.
At DSW, we ask the important questions, like, what shoes are you going to wear? Whether you're prepping for wedding season, festival season, or just planning the ultimate vacay, the right shoes can make or break an RSVP. So own the moment. You've got big plans, and we've got just the shoes. At the perfect price, of course. Get ready to get ready with Designer Shoe Warehouse. Head to your DSW store or DSW.com today and let us surprise you.
Okay, can I give you one of my favorite fresh takes of the year? It was Ryan Wexelblatt, the ADHD dude. He teaches courses online in person for parents and for kids with ADHD. He has a very refreshing approach that is born of expertise and also walking the walk every day as the parent of an ADHD kid. And he said something that I've been sort of thinking about ever since, which was the negotiation vortex, he called it, that we can get sucked. And this is true for all parents of tweens and teens, I think, not just ones with ADHD, that there's a negotiation vortex that we can get sucked into as parents, because for the teenage brain that's seeking stimulation and dopamine and is kind of turned up, like that's exciting. You know, when like you and your mom are yelling about something stupid, that's pretty interesting for a Tuesday afternoon. And so our job as parents is not to use logic or reason or help them understand that you didn't mean it that way and why are they overreacting. Don't get sucked into the negotiation vortex, because once you're trying to make them see that, no, it isn't that way, they're already winning. Or the ADHD brain, he would say, is already winning.
Yeah. That's a good takeaway for me. I'm going to be making another note about that today, Amy.
It was really useful.
Having been in some negotiation vortexes this very week. Good note. Another episode I singled out was Nicole Walters' Nothing is Missing. I thought this was a super interesting conversation, an amazing book. Like, one of the gifts of this job is that we just read and get exposed to so many books and ideas that just kind of reset the narrative. And you can't, as we were just talking about with Virginia Soul Smith, it turns out you can't reset your personal narrative just by reading a book, but it's a touchstone. And I think this idea, her idea of nothing is missing, and starting from this kind of mantra or this idea that you are enough just as you are, and not going into try to solve problems with the thesis of what is wrong with me, but to start from a really different place in that thesis. I found this conversation extremely eye-opening, and I just really, it stayed with me. It's a phrase that comes to me now, and that's always the sign of a great interview. Like, what if nothing is missing? What if I have to approach it from that point of view?
Right. And it's not as simple as, well, God doesn't give you anything you can't handle. It isn't that sort of like,
Pat.
What I have learned are called thought-terminating cliches.
Oh, you and I just read the same book, which is Cultish.
Cultish.
Yeah.
Great book. Amanda Montell. We should have her on the show. Yeah, thought-terminating cliches. Or, well, everything happens for a reason. We would call it toxic positivity. We've done an episode on that. But I didn't know about that term, and it's so smart because it means you can't answer it, right? When somebody says, well, God doesn't give you, right. Like, you're good. That isn't for somebody else to decide. It is, however, for you to decide. You have within you. You don't have to wait until you're thinner, prettier, smarter, better at tennis, whatever, a better parent to do the thing you need to do. You already have what you need within you.
Yeah, I think it's an empowering phrase versus a thought-terminating phrase in a way. And I think that, you and I, having started, my background is in comedy, and your background is in acting, and we've now started a business together. And I definitely had some feeling of like, well, I don't belong here. Like, I'm just a person who says funny things. Like, how would I know how to form an LLC or balance a balance sheet? Like, that's for smart people. That's for the business people. And really, this experience, and I'm glad in some ways it happened when it did, because I was old enough to shut those voices down a little bit more, I think. But being able to say, hey, we're both smart, we're both competent. What we don't know, we're good at finding people who do know. And so let's use that model and start a business. And it's going great.
Yeah. And let's talk about what we want to talk about. And let's interview the people we want to interview. I interviewed Esau McCauley. He was one of my favorite Fresh Takes this year. How Far to the Promised Land. Was it about parenting? Kind of. It was, his memoir is in part about his mom raising him as mostly a single parent because his dad was absent for many reasons. And I loved the book. I loved the conversation with him. Talking about like preconceived notions, it really exploded a lot of things I thought I understood into something new. And his big idea is we hold up lives of value, particularly Black lives, if they succeed, right? Like the one who made it to be number one at medical school is the one we're going to talk about, instead of the one who never made it out of poverty. Isn't that person's life worth living too? And he talks about his own ancestors in that way, but also invites us, like, every life is a value, not just the exceptional ones, whatever that means. Kind of a big idea. And I loved the book, and what a privilege to get to talk about that on a podcast with him and meet him.
One last episode I want to mention is Dr. Lynn Kogel, who wrote The Hidden Brilliance of Autism. And again, it's a way of approaching an issue that is saying the autism problem and like how dealing with a child with autism and, solving the problem of autism, that it comes from a point of view. And again, it's a book that is about autism, but it will resonate for anyone with a child. And taking the issue of autism and approaching it from the gifts of this point of view. And of course, it also gets at why those can be challenges as well. But that book really, really spoke to me. And it's one of those books that I've given to a bunch of people I know, and it's excellent. Lynn Kogel.
What was the most surprising or useful thing that you learned this year? I have a few. I want to hear what your...
One thing comes to mind, and I thought this was a great topic. I don't remember if it was you or me who came up with it, but let's go with me because I thought it was brilliant. Giving help that works and asking for the help we need, and trying to talk about, as we all try to help each other in community, which I think most people, and especially people who listen to this podcast and people who are seeking out these kind of answers, they have an instinct to be helpers and to support people in their lives who need help. That some of the things we talked about really specifically, one of which being avoiding let me know if you need anything, which puts the burden on the caretakee to then come up with a list of tasks and figuring out how we can offer help, how we can organize help, how we can spreadsheet help that is actually useful versus putting the burden on somebody to come up with something for you to do. Yeah, let me know if you need anything. It's kind of the text me your Christmas list version of, it just kind of hits the ball back to that person to figure out what's needed.
I'm going through this right now. Well, a friend is going through this right now, kid in the hospital for an extended stay, and was thinking about this very advice that we talked about. Let me know if you need anything. And I feel like I've been sort of shouting into sending texts that are sort of meaningless. And so anyway, I sent her earlier this week, okay, this week, I know she's at the hospital all the time right now. This week I have Monday afternoon free. I kind of have all day Wednesday free. And then I have Friday morning free. Those are my 3 times. Can I come to the hospital? Can I do this? Anyway, can I walk your dog? And these 3 times, what can I do? That seemed to help. Because she came back with, this is a crazy thing, but I need to, for her, family Christmas dinner that they're still going to, go to and have, I'm supposed to bring the wine. I'm like, got it. I will buy the wine. I'll bring it to your house. If your friend's going through a family funeral, maybe you can buy the 2-year-old an outfit to wear. Sometimes it's thinking about that thing. But anyway, this was something that really helped for me. It was these are the windows that I have. And I know you have a dog. Shall I walk the dog or come to the hospital? And then she was like, how about you buy wine for me instead? Great.
And I don't like to put the burden on people you said the wrong thing. There's nothing wrong with saying let me know, I want to help. I think those words are comforting too.
Right. You do want to help. Right.
But I thought it was a good insight to take it to that next step of, here are 4 offers. Are any of these useful to you? If not, please let me know how I can help.
Right.
The other thing was the comfort in, dump out model of caretaking, which I thought was really useful, that you're there to provide comfort and remove bad things, so that whether or not that looks like, I know when we had a death in the family, running a lot of interference at the kind of first day, people showing up at the house and kind of buffering the main mourner from certain people, that can be really useful. It can be getting the bad errands done, whatever it happens to be. It can be listening. There's lots of versions of this, but I thought it was a really useful construct.
You can, there's circles. The way this person explained it was there are circles around the mourning, right? Or the grief, or even the serious situation, even the ill child, right? And the parents are in the middle and the grandparents are maybe in the next circle, and maybe you're really close friends and you're in the next, you're somewhere in those circles too. You might need something too, but you can't get comfort from somebody who's closer to it. You can't say can you believe that they still haven't figured out how to help people with the flu in 2023, you're not talking to the person whose husband's in the hospital about that. You're talking to your spouse or your friend at yoga class about that. You're not complaining about anything to the person who's closer to it than you.
That's right. It's such a good, simple point that I think you miss all the time. And we talked a lot on that episode too of, I think that the misunderstanding of I don't want to insert myself in this situation. And I was talking about losing my mom. And the reality is that, someone who wasn't the closest person to our family wrote a long letter about one thing my mom had done that had really made a difference in the outcome of this person's life. And I think a lot of people might say I don't want to insert myself into the situation. And it's definitely one of the 5 things I remember most, because it was specific and it was a letter, which I thought was nice. It's not, you don't necessarily need somebody cornering you on day one and being here's this long story. you'll never regret sending a note. You'll never regret, just doing something nice. It makes a big difference.
So the most surprising thing I learned this year was sort of on the other side of this. Mara Glotzel wrote a book called Needy, and she was one of our guests this year. So I'm going to put that fresh take on one of the best episodes of the year list also. And she said in her book that those of us who spend a lot of time taking care of the needs of other people, anticipating those needs, carrying them out, which is pretty much everybody listening right now, we tend to put our own needs on the back burner. And we do so because we think if our needs were really important enough, somebody would see that. Somebody would acknowledge them. Somebody would take care of them. Somebody else would say, why don't you sit down for a while? You've done so much. And if nobody's saying that, it must be because the things that we need aren't as important as we think they are. Otherwise, somebody would certainly notice that we need them. And I thought, oh, I've done that. And she's like, yeah, we have to stop that. We have to stop that thinking. The things we need are as important as the needs we anticipate for everybody else. And we have to put ourselves on the list. And I really saw myself in that book and our discussion.
I, as you know, have a phrase of the year that emerges. One year it was the double-edged sword. Like, I don't know, about May, June, usually, I'm like, oh, this is a theme for the year. And it's just a phrase. Good news and the bad news is the same news. It just comes to me like, oh, this is what's going on. And my phrase this year, and I think I talked about it already on the podcast, is my brother, who's a lawyer, said, anything you don't tell a jury, they will fill in for themselves. And I feel like I've just had a bunch of experiences this year of, oh, I did not explain that well enough, and the person has defined something completely wrong, but it's kind of on me. Like, I didn't explain what was going on my end. And so the other person, maybe it's that
we need a story, right? The brain loves a story.
You need a story. The brain loves a story. That's the same phrase. And I think one of the themes that we've had with our guests this year is this is true for ourselves as well, that your own brain needs a story. And we say watch your story a lot on the podcast, but I think in this very specific way of like, I'm defining myself as missing things, that I'm not good enough. I'm defining myself as a person whose needs are not being met because they're not important enough. And I think that thematically that really resonated with me of, if I'm telling myself something, it's not necessarily true. And like, what else could be true instead of the thing that I think is true? Game changer, Amy. All right, we'll be back and we'll talk all about listener responses to our episode.
My favorite skincare products actually feel more like self-care, like they're so nice to put on and they smell so good that I'm actually happy when I get to that part of my day. And I swear that is how I feel about Osea's anti-aging body balm.
Amy, you are usually the lotions and potions queen on this podcast, but I have to say, hard agree.
Osea's anti-aging body balm is a liquid silk body balm that combines the lasting hydration of a lotion with the firming power of a serum, leaving skin smoother and firmer.
This body balm is clinically tested and designed to deliver visible results you can see and feel.
So we've gotten to use this product for a couple of months now, and I swear I have really noticed firmer and smoother skin, like on the back of my hands. It's like getting a mini spa treatment from head to toe.
Get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners.
Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FRESH at OseaMalibu.com.
That's 10% off your first order with code FRESH at OSEAMalibu.com.
All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that, taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE.
As we close out the year, it's time to wish you very happy holidays from the What Fresh Hell podcast.
Joyous season to you, Mom, trying desperately to figure out how to attend a Christmas concert, a work holiday party, and a neighborhood cookie exchange, all in a single evening.
Happy New Year to you, mom of the kid having a full-blown meltdown in aisle 6 at Target because you won't buy them a new gaming system that is mysteriously similar to the gaming system you bought them last year.
Merry Christmas to you, Mom, whose kids made their Christmas lists months ago, and then you dutifully bought everything on those lists. And then 1 week ago, they changed their minds, and now they don't really want any of the stuff that you bought them.
Happy holidays to you, dads, whose teens haven't spoken to them in a month except for to demand food and rides somewhere, who somehow have the gall to ask for a car as their Christmas gift.
Merriest of seasons to the mom who forgot to take the bag out of the turkey and ended up with a toxic plastic fire instead of a meal. To you, we say, hey, at least you tried.
And Happy New Year to all you moms and dads out there baking cookies, lighting candles, decking the halls, and cooking all of your family's favorite foods. Another year of being the best parent you can be, leaning on friends, and making your relationships work even when it's hard. You're doing it, friends, and we salute you.
Happy everything to you all.
From the What Fresh Hell podcast. Amy, in the end, it's all about the listeners, isn't it?
It definitely is. We think about you often.
Yes. And you know, so much of our podcast ideas and feedback and everything comes from our Facebook group, which you can find at facebook.com/groups/whatfreshhellcast. It is the best community. I mean, I know people, I have friends, male friends who are in there. I have friends who aren't parents. I have friends who are males and aren't parents. And they just keep saying it's the one place that I go that everybody is helping somebody else. There's no negative. It's the last good place on the internet.
I know.
And come and join if you're not there already. If you are joining, catch the vibe. It's all about support. It's not about, nobody's coming to that group to say, what am I doing wrong? And how could random internet user fix me with their mean words? It's just a place to say, and it's about the show, but it's much more about people looking to fellow parents for advice.
And sometimes it's like, should I buy this or will it fall apart after 3 days? And then somebody's like, oh, yeah, I bought that. It fell apart after 3 days. It's stuff like that.
But that was the best 3 days of our life. Go ahead and buy it anyway. Like, whatever. Yeah.
Right. So maybe you should buy it. Right. And then somebody else saying, like, my kid just got a diagnosis and I'm really struggling. It can be big or small.
Big or small. And I say that because we're talking about episodes where we most appreciated the listener response. We did an episode called When Typical Parenting Advice Doesn't Fit. And it got so much good feedback that we ended up doing a little series all about episodes on highly sensitive kids who don't fit the mold, because it really seemed to speak to people. And Sarah wrote this on Facebook, and I wanted to read it. About this episode, When Typical Parenting Advice Doesn't Fit, she says, going to be listening to this week's episode on when typical parenting advice doesn't fit on repeat. My sweet 4-year-old son is diagnosed ASD, which is autism spectrum disorder. And this episode made me feel so incredibly seen as we are just beginning to navigate school and societal norms. Thanks for giving me and all the other parents and caregivers of kiddos who don't quite fit that traditional mold of acceptance, the reassurance that we are doing a great job just by doing what works and what's best for our specific situation. This episode truly meant so much. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah. That means a lot to us. We love hearing from all of you who listen about what you like, what you want to hear more of, what really helped. I love when we hear from, if we do an Ask Amy or an Ask Margaret on a particular episode, and then we hear back from that listener and say like, oh my gosh, that actually helped. Thank you. Or I'm going to try that. Or just thanks for answering my question, whatever. It's meaningful to us to be making a difference in somebody's life.
And I think another great use of the Facebook page, I do, as it turns out, have a child on the spectrum. So in speaking about it, I was speaking from experience of having it be like, what's fun for kids is a loud birthday party, and thinking, well, let me take the other side of that. There's a bunch of kids for whom that's their worst day. And I think being able to speak to a certain degree to that feeling of isolation, and again, this self-definition of like, something's wrong with me and something's wrong with my kid because everybody is saying that X is the way. And me and my kid are in Y land. And that is really, it's painful. It really is. And it's hard. And I think to the degree that you want to reach out on the Facebook group and talk about things that don't work for you and things that, you know, you would like to hear reflected, the reality, and we've said it a million times, is Amy and I are white Irish Catholic women who married to dudes who grew up in the Northeast and went to similar kind of 4-year universities and do not have spouses in the military. So for a million reasons, I think that our experience can have blind spots and limitations. One thing that I quote Roxane Gay saying often is that if your experience is not reflected in something we're saying, it doesn't mean your experience is invalidated.
Right.
But that being said, I think that it's a great place to reach out and say, hey, I am in a situation that I haven't heard reflected yet, and I would like to hear somebody talk about, because, and if it's not us, it'll be a fresh take guest. I mean, we don't try to talk about things that we have no experience in, because I can't speak to, although I have family members who have been on long deployments. As a parent, I have not had that situation. It's not something that I can speak to, but we can find somebody to speak to that experience.
Right. Sometimes people write in and say, hey, I'd love to hear an episode about, can you talk to somebody? We really do try in our fresh takes to get a wide range of perspectives that offer something we can't. What's it like to be the parent of a deaf or hard of hearing child when you're not deaf and you have to make the decisions about cochlear implants or not? And that's a really interesting story in and of itself, but there is always something larger, right? There's always something universal about it. Through the specific, we get to the universal. Through our own stories, I think we get to what's universal about parenting. And I still think that what we have in common is far greater than the individual, paths that we've taken.
Agree. And I think sometimes we worry about presenting stuff that's so niche that like maybe this doesn't speak to enough people. But I can't think of an episode where I've thought there's nothing for somebody. There's not something for somebody else here. And I think that especially in the kids that don't fit the mold, personally, I've had a bunch of people tell me how much they like that episode. And there are people who I would maybe look at from the outside and think like, well, your kid is totally like right in the mold, right? But people, it doesn't need to be a diagnosis or something that is so, people have a lot of invisible struggles and things that are going on. And it turns out that very few people are like, yeah, you know what, my kid does fit the mold absolutely perfectly in every situation. Not a lot of people saying that.
Yeah, I'm starting to realize that, I don't know if there's anybody saying that. Right, that's what I've learned from doing this podcast. We have a group of all those episodes too, a playlist, the deep dive, we called it, of all the episodes that over the last 7 years that have touched on kids who don't fit into the perfect box of I love loud birthday parties or whatever it is. Or I can sit in my circle at story time or whatever. Yeah, if that's your kid, it's all our kids.
Years of my life lost to the circle of the preschool circle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it turns out that, some of my kids who didn't fit the norm are now later in life fitting it really well, while the surprise mold fitting elementary schooler is suddenly like, wait a minute, there's no room for me here. So it's also ages and stages. These things do change over time.
Since this is our last new episode of 2023, we wanted to give a special shout out to all the people besides Margaret and Amy who make this show possible week after week. And the first person we want to thank is Christy Hausler of Team Podcast. She's been our editor since 2018. For years, she's been editing our show and some other Adalyst Media shows as well. She's amazing. We love working with her. And if you know somebody who needs podcast editing services, Christy Hausler is the best.
Oh, yeah, she's the one. Team Podcast. We also want to thank Erica Frigiueli, our production manager, who keeps everything running smoothly, interfaces with our guests, writes our show notes, and currently reports from an undisclosed location overseas. She's one of those, what do you call it? There's a term that they use now, but it's like you work from wherever. Desk anywhere or something like that, they call it.
That's her.
She's desking anywhere. She's awesome. Thank you.
She's a digital nomad.
She's a digital nomad. Indeed. She's like pressing olives during the day and then making our podcast at night like a superhero. Thank you, Erica.
We also have 3 members of our Adalyst Media team that work on our show and all the other shows on our network, and we want to thank them. JB Johnson is our director of ad operations. We have a thriving ad business, and JB is in making sure of starting all the ads are correct, start at the right time and at the right time, deliver as many impressions as there's supposed to be, no mistakes. It's a big job. JB is the proud parent of a 1-year-old little girl who is sometimes on our Zoom calls, which is always the best when her daughter shows up. And we're delighted to have JB on the team.
Oh, it's the best. It's the best. We should require her to be on all Zoom calls. People say Amy and Margaret. She's definitely an Amy. She's working the details, making the spreadsheets. We also have the fantastic Gabby Lindgren,
Systems,
who is our director of operations. She makes sure everything works fine. And she is fantastic. She's smart, wise, very fun, and also
she's basically built a new airport for us this year. Everything, new systems.
Everyone should have a Gabby. I wish I had a little Gabby who lived in my closet to just be like, listen, could you fix everything that's wrong? And she's like, sure, I can do that.
Trudy Redsich is our director of sales. She handles What Fresh Hell and all the other shows in the Adalyst Media network, and she works fully remotely. All these very cool women work fully remotely, and we are meeting online all the time, but they are out in the world selling ads for these podcasts and connecting brands who want to reach moms and dads with shows like ours. Thanks, Trudy.
And then we come to the Adalyst OG, Sarah Levithan Daniels. She's been with us from day one.
Yes. Mom of 2 little boys. And Sarah has done it all from the beginning. And
if it was football, she'd be special teams. She just plays in at whatever position is needed at the time.
She's kind of like Cuz in The Bear. Have you watched The Bear?
No.
I haven't watched every episode of The Bear, so I'm not saying something because everybody in The Bear is secretly sad. So I'm not saying the sad part. I'm just saying Cuz, the bear is this troubled chef who's trying to run this restaurant, and it's kind of a mess. And the Cuz is just kind of there, and it's just if it needs to be done, the Cuz. It's the fixer. It's the fixer.
Yeah, the fixer. The fixer. And we also have to thank Adam Ditsky of Ditsky Strategic and Abdul Kamara. They are our accountants. And let me tell you, when I was saying before I didn't know how to run a business, you need good accountants to run a business, as it turns out. Strengths and weaknesses. It turns out you don't need to know how to do a balance sheet if you have Ditsky Strategic working for you.
Right. You just need to have one, and they made it for us.
You just need to have a Ditsky. Yeah. And it's going great.
Lastly, we want to thank all of you who listen and make our independent podcast in year 7. It might even be year 8 now. I mean, that you make this show possible. It's a dream come true.
Thank you so much for listening. Have a happy new year, and we will talk to you in 2024, friends.
On the other side, we are going to have episodes. They're going to be best ofs to the end of the year. So thanks, everybody.